morning everyone, and welcome back to the Pierce Family channel. If you're new here, my name is Jade, and today I'm going to talk about the hardest parts of being a first-time mom to a newborn. As a 7-month-old, Isaac is well out of the newborn stage, which is usually categorized from 0 to 3 months old. I think there are tons of things to consider when deciding to become a parent, but here's my abbreviated list of the hardest things about being a new mom. I had fooled myself into thinking the hardest part would be the 72-hour delivery I went through, especially because it felt like being hit by a truck. The first two things I did when we got to the recovery room were eat a sandwich and get a shot of morphine. I hadn't even considered the fact that I would have to go through my own recovery after pushing a person out of my body while learning to take care of said person so entirely. The entirety of the newborn stage is one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. This stage has also adopted the nickname the 4th trimester. The reason being is because if humans were physically capable of carrying babies for a full 12 months, that would be ideal, because that's when babies are sincerely ready to be a part of an outside world. But our bodies cannot physically handle that, so the majority of babies usually pop out around 9 months. But those first 3 months of their lives, they should still be developing in the womb. So that's what they want you to replicate. They want the smells they remember. They want to be cuddled up close like they were for so long. And they want to be rocked like they were all the time when you were walking around during pregnancy. And they need so much attention because they simply don't understand anything that is happening to them. Moms are bombarded with a barrage of new information and having to deal with sorting through all of it. Some of it is so useless and some is so useful, but there is no way to know which is which until the baby is here. By which time, all that information has left your head, whether it was useful or not. After reading prenatal education notes from the doctor, learning to write a 2-page birth plan, and taking a class called Preparing for Delivery, there is still Recovering from Childbirth, a class called Breastfeeding Basics, a breastfeeding guide, and healthy recipes for breastfeeding moms. And then a 4-hour class called After Baby Comes at the hospital a few months before Isaac was born, and a guide for mother-baby care. And this doesn't even include what pops up when you turn to Dr. Google. But you're expected to process all this information while taking care of this tiny squish and raging on more hormones than you've had since 7th grade. Speaking of hormones, most people who haven't had a baby don't know about a thing called baby blues. There luckily has been a lot of new advocating for PPD and PPA, postpartum depression and anxiety, but baby blues is something completely different. Baby blues is something that will happen to every woman postpartum. All these hormones you have from growing and birthing a human are still flooding your system. I cried almost every day for 2 to 3 weeks after Isaac was born, and usually for the dumbest reasons. Our sister-in-law was nice enough to drop off some of her children's old clothes, ranging from newborn to 18 months, and as we sorted through it all, I started crying, thinking about how Isaac would never fit into those giant clothes. I cried because somebody said they would be at our house at 3 o'clock, and due to circumstances uncontrollable by them, they showed up at 3:15. I cried because Isaac cried, and I cried from exhaustion. And all of that is totally normal, but that doesn't mean it doesn't get to you. Something else almost every new mom learns is there is a big difference between waking up in the middle of the night and being awake in the middle of the night. Waking up and lying around is one thing, but waking up and having to go take care of another human being who you're responsible for is something totally different, especially because you're not sure whether or not you'll get another 2 hours of sleep before you're up for the day. Your baby could be up for 10 minutes, they could be up for 20, they could be up for 3 hours, or they could be up for the day. When they're so small, it's basically impossible to create or predict any type of schedule. Or it was for me anyway. So there's a lot of winging it and very little sleep. New parenthood is exhaustion like you'll never have felt before. Yes, it really takes a toll on you physically, but it also starts taking a toll on you mentally. If you've never experienced delusion from a lack of sleep, you should stay up for a night or two before deciding that you're going to have a baby, because it is almost an absolute certainty. Another thing that I had never heard of that proved to be quite the challenge during the newborn phase is something called the witching hour. While the phrase itself can be used to describe any span of bad luck, it lends itself really easily to newborn babies who get fussy at certain times of day for seemingly no reason. For Isaac, this started happening around 3 weeks of age, around dinner time, almost every evening. I fed him every night before I ate dinner so he would be happy and full. But at that point in his life, he needed more than that. Without fail, Isaac needed to be held every time I tried to go to eat. He wanted to be rocked and cuddled and swayed and bounced because, you know, I had all this energy left over from taking care of a newborn all day. At 7 months, Isaac is so much sturdier than he was during those newborn witching hours. He was much sturdier than I had expected, but still so fragile compared to right now. Babies literally don't know how to hold their own heads up, so obviously he had to be held with 2 hands all of the time. I don't even really remember when the transition from needing 2 arms to hold him to just 1 was, but I can tell you it was a game changer. Because as a mom, you're gonna need to get really good at eating and doing everything else with just 1 hand. Just like holding their head up, newborns need to learn literally everything there is to know. They don't even know they have hands. Everything they are experiencing is brand new to them. So it's also really easy for them to be overwhelmed and overstimulated. Before they are a few months old, they can only see about a foot in front of them. So to them, the person holding them is their entire world. And as sweet as that is, it's also hard as hell. All that being said, Isaac still had a relatively easy newborn phase. He didn't have colic, he didn't have reflux. We had a relatively easy time learning how to breastfeed. There was never a time I regretted the decision that I made to have a baby. And realistically, that happens to a lot of parents. For some people, there are a solid 2 months of their life where the only way to calm down their baby is to bounce on an exercise ball all day long. Some women sing to their babies until they lose their voices on a nightly basis. There are some people who have to deal with their babies spending time in the NICU, and there are some people who never come home with their babies. So I will always consider myself lucky. Each phase of new motherhood only lasts a few weeks or a few months at most. While you're in it though, it can be hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel. But there is always an ending. And I have to say, easily the hardest thing about being a new mom is soaking up every moment with that newborn. Remembering every little detail. Even with the ability to take a video or a picture in our pockets, it's still impossible to catch it all. The first time he made a certain expression, the little noises I'll never hear him make again, the one time he squinched his nose just so. All I have left are the memories, which are so elusive I will never take advantage of the ones that I do have. So that wraps up today's video, the hardest things about being a mom to a newborn. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any questions, make sure you leave a comment below. If you liked this video, make sure to like it. Make sure you subscribe to our channel to become a part of the Pierce family. See you guys in the next one. Bye.